So Bernie Sanders has recently seemingly been growing more and more fed up with the Democratic Party, almost to the point of exhaustion, it seems. He was much more optimistic previously, earlier last year, and even more so before then. But I assume now that he's really wallowing in the corruption, not literally speaking, we know Bernie Sanders isn't corrupt, but being around all those people, because now he's in those conversations and the talks of legislation and everything else. I feel like he finally sees what's happening, especially with his statement relatively recently, with him saying that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class. And he has more fire for the Democrats, which really spells out the irony of the current political situation that they face. So this is an article from The Hill, and this is Bernie Sanders saying, I just want to read out a couple quotes from him. So the article goes, Senator Bernie Sanders on Sunday said Senate Republicans are laughing all the way to Election Day because, and I quote, they have not had to cast one bloody vote on the Democrats' roughly $1.2 trillion social spending and climate package, which is stalled in the upper chamber. What has bothered me very much is that the Republicans are laughing all the way to Election Day. They have not had to cast one bloody vote, which shows us where they're at. And we have got to change that, Sanders told co-anchor Dana Bash on CNN's State of the Union. The House-passed spending package has languished in the Senate because of opposition from Republicans, centrist Senator Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. Manchin and Sinema refused to get behind the legislation despite weeks of negotiations between the White House and Capitol Hill lawmakers. The Vermont Independent on Sunday urged the Senate to put individual policy initiatives from the social spending and climate package on the floor for votes, a move that would compel members to take a stance on the proposals. He said Democrats can then cobble together a package with the proposals that appear to have enough support to pass. Sanders emphasized that many of the initiatives in the larger bill have widespread support among Americans before saying that the Senate has allowed the GOP to get away with murder by not bringing legislation to the floor unless it has the votes to pass. I think that when you bring the bills on the floor, we have allowed the Republicans to get away with murder. They haven't had to vote on anything. Now, if they want to vote against lowering the cost of prescription drugs, expanding Medicaid, dealing with child care, dealing with housing, let them vote and let Manchin and Sinema decide which side they are on. And when all that shakes out, we'll see where we are. I have the feeling that we will be able to get 50 votes or more on some of these issues. We could put that piece together and then pass something that's very significant. So essentially what Mr. Sanders is saying here is that we, i.e. him and the Democrats, are giving the Republicans a huge cover. Because essentially what happens is this. When the Democrats get elected, and they get elected by making all these false promises that they never deliver on, like a $15 minimum wage, for example, that Biden still hasn't delivered on and isn't going to deliver on. They make these false promises, and the people elect them thinking that they're going to receive those promises. And when they don't, the Republicans can come out and go, see, look, they didn't do it. I told you they weren't going to do it. You should come out and vote for us. But if you notice something very snarky and sleazy, they don't offer anything in return for voting for them. They just say, come vote for them. And they make these assertions that they so constantly make about the culture war and about wokeness and about other shit that in the grand scheme of things really doesn't matter. But it's a sound message for the people at the time. And Bernie Sanders is like, yo, it's happening all over again. We're not delivering. People are flocking to vote for the opposition party. And the opposition party is laughing all the way to the elections because they don't have to voice their opposition to incredibly popular pieces of legislation. They don't have to come out and say that they don't want to lower drug prices because they're also bought by Big Pharma. They don't want to come out and say that they support child care. They don't want to come out or that they don't support child care. They don't have to come out and say they don't support these things that the American people largely want. And we're giving them a pass, and it's setting up a bloodbath for us. And what he's calling for is just introduce the legislation. Even if you know it's not going to pass, introduce it, have everybody that's for it, vote for it. And if the people that aren't for it, allow them to vote against it. And then call them out for it. Why are you voting against the lower drug price for Americans when we know that's what they want? That's what he's saying. And he wants to use that as a political weapon going into the midterms because he knows if they don't do something, and it doesn't matter, they could do anything at this point, and they still may very well get wiped out. And Bernie Sanders sees that the writing is on the wall. And he knows that, pretty much any inaction at this point will lead to the destruction of the current party in power. and it could only go downhill even more from the point that we're at. And so he's calling on them to do some sort of action, but I don't think they will, because everything up until this point has told us that they won't. I guess you could say better late than never. If Biden wants to truly, even attempt to hold on to the meager margins that he has in the House and Senate right now, take that executive order pen and go crazy. Just go crazy, man. Doing things that the people have been asking for such a long time, like getting rid of student loan debt, legalizing marijuana, freeing the nonviolent drug offenders. There's plenty of things that he can do, but of course he won't do it. But here's Bernie Sanders with a pretty sound message.